My brother's ex-fiancée took over our family after his plane crash. But I found his hidden USB, exposed her insurance scam, and teamed up with her past victim's mom to reveal her pattern. When the plane went down, it felt like the air got sucked out of our house with it. My name is Kellen Brooks. I'm 16 years old, and I live in Sebastopol, California, a sleepy town with orchards, bookstores, and exactly one streetlight per mile. It's also where my older brother, Chase, learned to fly. They said it was a solo training accident. They said weather was clear. They said a lot of things. But all I could hear was the hollow sound of my mom sobbing into her cardigan while my dad stared blankly at the wall, mouth slightly open like he'd forgotten how to close it. I didn't cry, not right away. I just kept waiting for someone to tell me it was a mistake, that they'd found him walking away from the wreck, that they were wrong. A week after the funeral, Marla showed up with 2 suitcases and a belly just beginning to show. Chase's ex-fiancée. She has nowhere else to go, my mom whispered to me that night, like she was explaining why a wounded animal was sleeping in our den. She's family, Kellen. Family? She and Chase had broken up months before the crash. They weren't even speaking. Still, my parents gave her Chase's room, his room, and asked me to give up half my college fund to help with the baby. Not offered. Asked. As if it were a given. As if my grief was less important than hers. Marla moved in like she belonged. She hung one of her knitted throws on the back of Chase's desk chair. Lined the dresser with her vitamin bottles and peppermint lotion. She said things like, Chase used to hum this when he made coffee, or, this was always his favorite mug, even when I knew it wasn't true. She called my parents Mom and Dad after 1 week. My mom cried when she did. She claimed they had still been secretly talking before he died. That she had letters. That they were reconnecting. My dad swallowed it whole. Maybe he just didn't want to say anything until it was real, he told me. But Chase told me everything. He told me he was done. That she was manipulative. Controlling. That she lied. I started locking my door. Keeping Chase's things in a box under my bed, flight badges, simulator printouts, a worn-down leather bracelet. I watched Marla accidentally forget to knock. Heard her whispering to my mom late at night, their voices low and tight like co-conspirators. She even rearranged the living room and put up a framed sonogram photo where Chase's graduation picture used to hang. At dinner, she led grace like she had always been part of our rituals. She smiled too big. She rubbed her stomach too often. One night, I looked at my dad across the table, hoping he'd say something. But he just patted Marla's hand and said, Chase would be so proud of you. I looked down at my plate, heart pounding, because I knew he wouldn't. It started with Chase's flight journal. I kept it hidden in my sock drawer, under a false bottom made of glued-together old homework. He used to sketch runways and write down flight patterns in it. The ink was faded in places from how often he erased and rewrote details. It was personal, sacred, untouchable. And one day, it was just gone. I tore my room apart. Every drawer, every shoe, every book jacket. Gone. I stormed into the living room, my voice shaky and loud, demanding to know where it was. Marla looked up from the couch with a smile so fake it made my stomach turn. Oh, she said lightly, I found a box of old things and figured it would be healthy to let them go. You don't need to cling to all that sadness, Kellen. I donated it. My mom said nothing. My dad patted her shoulder. And I stood there like the only one who could hear the fire alarm going off while everyone else sat calmly eating dinner. From that point on, it got worse. She got full access to everything. My dad let her into the bank accounts for the baby's expenses. She started reading Chase's old texts from the family iCloud like they were love letters to her. At night, I'd hear her laughing with my mom about memories that never happened. Remember when he called me Pumpkinhead? She said once over dinner. He said it was because my face turned red when I cried. He never called her that. He called me that when I got stung by a bee once and puffed up like a balloon. I clenched my jaw, but no one corrected her. Chase's birthday came around in April. He used to love the Wings Over Wine Country Air Show. We went every year, just the 2 of us. I saved up for tickets. Bought 2. I'm going, I told my parents. Marla tilted her head. Oh, sweetie, I wish you'd told us sooner. We're throwing the baby shower that weekend. What? You can't be serious, I said. It's his birthday. I know, honey, my mom said gently, but we need this. We all need to move forward. I left the table without finishing dinner. Slammed my door hard enough to make the photos on the wall rattle. Later that night, I found a pale yellow envelope on my bed. Inside was an invite to the baby shower, written in cursive with hosted with love by Chase's family. No mention of me. I opened my box of keepsakes, the backup one I'd hidden in the closet behind my air purifier. Empty. Every photo. Every ticket stub. Gone. I ran out into the hallway, hands shaking. Where are my things? Marla peeked out from the bathroom, brushing her teeth like nothing was wrong. Oh, I took care of that. You'll feel better, trust me. I didn't trust her. I didn't trust anyone in this house. That night, I slept with my bedroom door wedged shut with a chair. And for the first time since Chase died, I was more scared than sad. The attic had always been our place. Chase and I called it the simulator back when we were little. It was just a dusty storage crawlspace above the garage, but to us, it was an air traffic control tower, a cockpit, a hiding place when things got loud downstairs. The trapdoor ladder creaked so badly you had to climb it like a thief, slow and deliberate. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Marla's voice in my head, all syrupy and sweet. You'll feel better, trust me. My box of memories was gone. Chase's journal was gone. And now his birthday had been overwritten by balloon animals and cupcakes. I needed something. Anything real. So I climbed the ladder. The air was thick with dust and insulation particles. My flashlight flickered a little, and I had to tap the bottom with my palm. I stepped around boxes of old holiday decorations and a broken futon, toward the back wall where Chase and I used to keep our flight plans, basically scribbled math sheets and poster board diagrams. I ran my fingers along the plywood wall and stopped when I felt it. A loose panel. Still cracked along the corner from when Chase had kicked it once, trying to escape a tailspin. I pried it open. Inside was a Ziploc bag, sealed with blue masking tape. A folded piece of notebook paper sat inside, yellowed and warped with sweat stains. Chase's handwriting, jagged, rushed, but unmistakable, stared back at me. I slid down to the floor and read. Kellen, if you're reading this, I didn't crash by accident. Something's wrong. Marla's been drugging me small doses, I think. I only noticed when I kept falling asleep mid-sim. She says it's vitamins. It's not. I switched bottles once and caught her refilling it. The baby's not mine. I found text on her old phone. I don't even think she knows I saw them. I made a copy of everything. It's hidden. I'll tell you her soon. Don't trust her. And if anything happens to me, don't believe the first story they tell you. Keep flying. You're the smart one. See? I stared at the paper until my hands went numb. He knew. He knew what she was doing. I refolded the letter and tucked it inside my hoodie pocket. Every part of me wanted to run downstairs and scream it into my parents' faces, wave it in front of Marla like a flaming sword. But just as I stood up, I heard it. A soft creak below. Then footsteps. Slow. Precise. Not Mom. Not Dad. Marla. I dropped the panel back into place and killed the flashlight. My heart beat so hard I thought she might hear it through the ceiling. She didn't say anything. Just walked into my bedroom and stood there. I could hear her breathing. After a minute, she whispered, "It's not good to sneak around at night, Kellen. Makes people suspicious." I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. Eventually, her footsteps faded. When I got back to my room, I stuffed the letter behind my old Nintendo cartridge in my desk drawer. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Jenna. Hey, weird question. Did you know Marla picked up Chase's prescriptions after the breakup? My sister saw her at the pharmacy last spring. Alone. I stared at the screen. Everything Chase wrote, it was already happening. And Marla knew. It started with a therapy referral. A bright pink brochure left on my pillow. I picked it up and read the name. Dr. Dana Everson, Adolescent Wellness and Grief Support. I walked into the kitchen holding it between two fingers. What is this? Marla was at the table with my mom, sipping tea like she belonged there. She didn't even look up. That's Dr. Everson. She helped me during college, she said. And since you've been struggling so much lately, I didn't ask for this. Well, we're asking for you, my mom said softly. Honey, your behavior's been erratic. The yelling, the accusations. It's not healthy. Because I don't want to throw a baby shower on my dead brother's birthday? I snapped. Marla sked like a disappointed teacher. We're worried. That's all. The next week, they made the appointment for me. I sat across from Dr. Everson, blonde, polished, with a voice like a voicemail greeting, and watched her take notes like she already knew what I'd say. She told me you've been seeing things, Dr. Everson said after 10 minutes, and having trouble letting go of Chase. Marla. I stared at her. You're getting my file from Marla? She's part of your care team now. Your parents agreed. I felt like I was suffocating. I stopped talking after that. At school, things got worse. My counselor started doing check-ins every morning. A wellness officer followed me to lunch like I was on probation. Teachers gave me sympathetic nods when I turned in assignments late, which I never did before. I found out Marla told them I was grieving erratically and had made concerning comments about harming myself. None of it was true, but the damage was done. She also installed cameras in the house. For safety, she said. With a baby on the way, we need to feel secure. They were in the hallway, the living room, even the garage. The only place untouched was my bedroom, and I knew it was just a matter of time. She gave us all recovery schedules. Breakfast at 7:30, journaling at 9, memory-free zones in the house. Her words, where we weren't allowed to talk about Chase. Any deviation, and she told my parents I was sabotaging my healing. One afternoon, I caught her in the garage ripping pages out of Chase's old flight manual. "What the hell are you doing?" I yelled. She dropped the papers like they were nothing. "These are outdated. You shouldn't hold on to things that aren't safe." "Those were his. You don't get to touch them." She stepped toward me, calm and slow. "Kellen, grief makes us irrational. But hurting yourself won't bring him back." "I'm not the one hurting anybody," I snapped. That's when she grabbed my wrist. Her nails dug in hard. Harder than she meant to, maybe. I yanked away, heart pounding. She looked at me, then at the red crescent-shaped marks on my arm. "You need help," she whispered. "And I'm going to make sure you get it." That night, she told my parents I was self-harming. My dad knocked on my door looking pale. "We need to talk, son." I rolled up my sleeve before he could say anything. She did this. But the doubt had already planted itself. He gave me that look, the one people wear when they're afraid to say what they really think. By Monday, I wasn't allowed to walk to school alone. Jenna's text slowed down. She told me her parents had received a call from Dr. Everson about limiting stressors in my environment. Marla was choking off everything, my friends, my voice, my truth. And no one seemed to notice I was disappearing. The only place I could still breathe was behind the dumpster behind Jenna's apartment complex. Romantic, I know. She met me there after school on a Thursday, hoodie pulled tight over her head, backpack slung forward like a shield. "You weren't followed?" she whispered. "Only by my own doom," I muttered. "But no, I'm clean." She rolled her eyes and unzipped her bag. Inside were a laptop, a flash drive, and a bundle of envelopes. Okay. I pulled everything my sister had access to from the hospital records. Pharmacy logs, med pickups, even her clinic badge data. Marla visited the same place Chase filled his prescriptions 5 times in the 3 weeks after they broke up. She said she wasn't talking to him. I said, told my parents they were reconnecting after the crash. Exactly. She lied. We started digitizing everything. Chase's hidden letter, photos of Marla's old texts, insurance documents, pharmacy timestamps, every journal entry I remembered and rewrote from memory. Jenna formatted it all into posts and uploaded it to an anonymous blog we made that night, Project Bluebird. "Why Bluebird?" she asked. "It's what Chase called his favorite flight sim. Said it was the first one that made him feel real." Within 24 hours, the blog had its first ping. Then 3. Then 13. Strangers, usernames like Thorn in the Nest and PilotWife02, started sending tips. One claimed she knew Marla under a different name, Lydia Wren. Another posted screenshots of a Facebook account that had been wiped a year ago but not before someone archived it. The profile photo was of a woman holding a bouquet at someone else's wedding. Marla. Or Lydia. We dug deeper. Jenna and I skipped dinner most nights, sneaking into her garage to work by the glow of a desk lamp and a pile of pizza boxes. We uncovered obituary comments for a guy named Peter Doyle, an amateur pilot in Nevada who had died in a hiking accident. Guess who he had been engaged to 6 months prior? Lydia Wren. We tracked down Peter's mother. She didn't have much, but she confirmed her suspicions. The fiancé vanished after the funeral, took a chunk of his belongings, filed an insurance claim under domestic partner despite never being married. The pattern was the same. Pilot, tragedy, inheritance, disappearing act. I felt sick, but also vindicated. Chase wasn't crazy. He was hunted. The more we posted, the more came in. One neighbor sent us doorbell footage, a woman matching Marla's description leaving Chase's house at 2:06 a.m. the night before the crash. She had told my parents she was homesick. Meanwhile, at our house, things were getting weirder. Marla walked slower now, like she was rehearsing pregnancy pain. I asked her due date once. She blinked for 2 seconds too long and then said, "Oh, December." It was April. I watched her fake a contraction in front of my mom, hands on back, exaggerated wince, deep breath, only to forget and bend down to tie her shoe 5 minutes later. No grunt. No stiffness. Just performance. That's when I knew. The pregnancy was fake. I told Jenna. She blinked, then nodded like it made perfect sense. We added it to the archive. Finally, I confronted her. Just us in the hallway, the house dark except for the blue glow of the TV in the other room. "You're not pregnant," I said flatly. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. "You're digging in places that will bury you, Kellen." "Funny," I said. "Chase warned me you'd say something like that." Her smile faltered. "No one believed him either," she said. And then she walked away like she hadn't just admitted everything without saying a single word. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday night. Spaghetti, a reality show, my dad snoring in his recliner. Instead, Marla sat us all down at the table and dropped a bomb. "Bill and I have been talking," she said sweetly, placing her hand over my dad's. "And we feel it's time to make things official. For the baby's sake." "Official?" I choked on my water. "You're kidding." My mom lit up like a Christmas tree. "Oh, honey, really?" "Wait," I said. "What does official mean?" Marla smiled at me like a kindergarten teacher explaining shapes. Your father proposed. My dad looked like a deer in headlights. Well, I mean, I didn't exactly get on one knee. We're still discussing. We filed for a domestic partnership, Marla finished for him. My skin went cold. She was securing legal ties to Chase's estate, to everything he owned, everything our family had. I'm going to be your stepmother, she said, as if that made the horror better. I stood up. No. Kellen, my mom warned. No, I said louder. This is insane. She's not who she says she is. Marla touched her stomach. Please don't raise your voice around the baby. There is no baby. My dad slammed his hand on the table. Enough. I left the room, trembling. My mom followed me out to the hallway. Please don't ruin this, she whispered. We're all trying to heal. That night, Jenna posted another entry on Project Bluebird, an audio file of Marla calling a life insurance company posing as Chase's fiancée. Her voice fake crying, asking for payout forms. The timestamp was the day before the crash. The blog exploded. Dozens of comments. Shares. Messages from people who knew Marla or Lydia from years ago. A woman named Camille from Oregon sent us screenshots of Lydia's LinkedIn. Another posted an old church bulletin where she was listed as Lydia and Rendoyle. My mom saw it by accident. She walked in on me refreshing the page, frozen on a picture of Marla in a different town, a different state, wearing a name she claimed never belonged to her. She didn't say anything, just stared. Later that night, I overheard her in the kitchen whispering to my dad. Bill, her handwriting. It doesn't match the note Chase left. He was upset. No, it's not his. We weren't the only ones seeing the cracks. Mr. Delaney next door brought over his doorbell cam footage, a grainy clip of Marla walking down our driveway in the middle of the night. The same night as Chase's crash. She told us she had been bedridden with morning sickness. Look, Mr. Delaney said, playing the clip in slow motion. She's carrying something in a grocery bag. Heavy, like it's glass or metal. The flight simulator yoke was never recovered from the attic. Marla sensed the shift. So she announced she was going into urgent care. Pregnancy complications, she told my mom, clutching her side. It's high risk. I might need full bed rest. She curled up on the couch with a blanket and made herself the center of gravity in our home. My parents hovered. Friends from church sent soup. She stopped walking, stopped lifting, stopped doing anything except smiling weakly and letting people wait on her. But I knew what it really was. A stall. A distraction. She was buying time because she knew the truth was catching up. It all came down to Chase's helmet. The one he wore during training flights, matte black with a faded blue star decal on the side. I hadn't touched it in months. It sat on the top shelf of the garage like a trophy too sacred to dust. That night, something pulled me toward it. Maybe instinct. Maybe Chase. I climbed onto a stool and pulled it down. It was heavier than I remembered. When I turned it over, something clinked inside. Taped to the inner padding was a USB drive. I stared at it for a full minute before I moved. In my room, I locked the door, plugged it into my laptop, and waited. Inside were 3 audio files. All dated a week before Chase died. The first one was scratchy, like it was recorded through a pocket mic. Marla, if you don't file that paperwork, you're throwing away our future. The insurance won't pay unless you designate me. Chase, we're not even together anymore. And I know what you've been doing. I found the pills. Marla, then keep your mouth shut or I'll tell your parents everything. You think they'll believe you after everything I've done for them? The second file was shorter. Chase, you're not pregnant, are you? Marla, silence. Chase, who's the father? Marla. Marla, it doesn't matter. All that matters is what they believe. The third was just one sentence. Marla, you should have just let me fix your life for you. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Jenna and I made copies. One for us. One for the school counselor. One for the investigator Peter Doyle's mother had hired. Then I asked my parents for a family meeting. We met in the living room. Marla sat curled in a blanket on the couch, rubbing her fake belly in slow circles like she was trying to summon sympathy. I stood near the fireplace, heart racing, laptop in hand. I want to talk about Chase, I said. My mom started to object, probably something about boundaries, but I held up my hand. Just listen. I hit play. The room went silent. The first audio file filled the space like a cold wind. My mom's jaw dropped. My dad sat forward in his chair, staring at the speakers like he'd never heard sound before. Marla didn't blink. When the third file ended, Jenna stepped into the room, holding a folder. These are financial records, flight logs, surveillance footage, and statements from people who knew Marla before she became Marla. She handed the folder to my mom, then another to my dad. I turned to Marla. Or should I say, Lydia Wren. That got her. For a second, the performance cracked. Her lips parted. Her hand dropped from her belly. You're all just confused, she said quickly. That's not even me. That's someone else. Tom Doyle's mom entered the room, followed by a man in a blazer, the private investigator. He held up a report. Multiple aliases. 2 deceased fiancés. Unexplained funds. Life insurance payouts. This isn't her first story. Marla stood, wobbling, but she forgot something. Her stomach shifted. Wrong. Jenna gasped. She's not even wearing it. My mom looked horrified. The bump. Where's the bump? Marla froze. In one clumsy movement, she tried to pull the blanket tighter, but it slipped. Beneath it, nothing but a sweatshirt stretched awkwardly over padding she hadn't bothered to wear. My dad stood slowly. Get out, he said. She opened her mouth to protest, but he pointed at the door. I said get out. Within 20 minutes, she was gone. My parents filed a no-contact order that same day. The investigator took copies of the evidence and promised to coordinate with the police. My mom cried for hours afterward. But for the first time, it wasn't about Chase being gone. It was about who they almost let replace him. And they finally saw me. The son who was still here. The house was quiet again. No essential oils diffusing in the vents. No pastel calendars taped to the fridge. No forced therapy check-ins or prenatal appointments that never existed. Just quiet. Marla, or Lydia Wren, as the police now called her, was arrested in Ohio 2 weeks later. She'd already changed her name again and was living with another family, posing as a widowed school counselor, allegedly helping a grieving man raise his daughter. They caught her trying to access his late wife's financial records. She never saw it coming. The case reopened Chase's file and Peter Doyle's too. Investigators linked her to at least 3 suspicious deaths across different states. Insurance fraud, identity theft, and evidence tampering were just the start. Chase's memory was no longer buried under balloons and lies. It was everywhere, in the people who came forward, the photos that reappeared in shoeboxes, the little plain pin I found in my jacket pocket a month after she left. My dad mounted it above the fireplace. He loved that thing, he said, voice thick. We finally had a real memorial. Not one with brunch platters and sad piano music, a real one, in the hangar where Chase used to volunteer. Friends, instructors, neighbors, people who knew him. Not the sanitized version Marla sold to make herself a widow. I gave a speech. My voice cracked once, but I didn't care. My brother wasn't perfect, I said. But he was real. And he deserved to be remembered for who he was, not who someone needed him to be. They all stood when I finished. Even my dad. My college fund was reinstated. Quietly. My parents never said it directly, but one day I got an email from the financial office saying the freeze had been removed. No apology. Just a number back in place and a note that read, glad to see you're still pursuing engineering. I stopped going to Dr. Everson. Started seeing a real therapist, someone Jenna's mom recommended. She was quiet, older, and didn't ask me to forgive anyone before I was ready. Jenna and I kept the blog up. It became more than a story. It became a warning. People started messaging us, siblings, cousins, best friends, who'd seen someone like Marla in their own lives. We put together a resource page, red flags, legal tips, safe reporting. We even did a podcast episode with Peter Doyle's mom. I stopped feeling crazy. I started feeling useful. Marla's fake pregnancy bump ended up in an evidence bag. I saw a photo of it in the investigator's report, a silicone insert with Velcro straps and a heat-retaining lining to simulate body warmth. That image stayed with me. It wasn't just that she faked a pregnancy. She built a version of herself that tricked everyone, even people who thought they were smart. But not Chase. He saw her, and he tried to stop her. He almost did. And in the end, I finished what he started. On my last night in the house before college, I went up to the attic. The panel was still loose. I sat in the corner, knees pulled to my chest, holding the bracelet Jenna saved for me, the one Chase used to wear on flights. I whispered, I did it, Chase. Then I slipped the bracelet on, stood up, and climbed back down. My parents were in the kitchen, packing up snacks for the drive. We've got your dorm list, my dad said, voice gentler than I'd heard in years. And the flight simulator club at school, my mom added. We thought you might want to join. I smiled. For the first time since the crash, I felt like I was flying again, not away from something, but towards something real. And this time, no one could fake it.